After 2 years of not playing in a single competitive tennis match, I finally played in one, and I lost. But the fact that I was even able to play in that match and lose, that was one of my proudest moments. For a long time, I didn't even know if that was possible, if I'd be able to get back onto a tennis court and play in a competitive tennis match. Not only that, but make it competitive, make it close. So let's dive in. To explain why it was so important for me just to get back out on the court again, we gotta go back. So I've loved tennis for a really long time, and I played it all throughout high school. I played it in college on intramural teams. I wasn't, that good to be able to play on an actual college team, but I played as much as I could, and I would sign up for tournaments and things like that. I took every opportunity that I could to play. Somewhere around 2021 or 2022, I started feeling a lot of pain in my shoulder every time I played tennis. It was mainly on my serves, any sort of overhead motion. Any sort of overhead motion would cause me a lot of pain. And after going through a bunch of different doctors and different things that didn't really work, I finally got an MRI, and they told me I had a torn labrum in my shoulder. So in a way for me, that was a relief. It was a little scary because I knew I had to have surgery and that I would have a long recovery ahead of me, but it was relieving in the fact that I knew that there was something specifically wrong in my shoulder, that I wasn't crazy, and that there was a path forward. So I had a lot of hope that things were going to work out. So jumping forward to the day of the surgery, the surgeon said that my labrum had been torn completely off of the bone. That sounds pretty serious. I don't actually know how common that is or if it was actually bad. I mean, it sounds bad. So anyway, they had to put like 6 anchors in my shoulder to repair that labrum, make sure that it would stay attached. But yeah, he said that I should be able to make a full recovery. I should be able to get back to playing sports and tennis again in about 3 to 4 months. So that was my light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, that's not that bad. I got the surgery in December, so by March or April, I should be playing tennis again, which is perfect because that's when the weather starts warming up again, and it would be perfect timing for me to be able to get back outside again and play the sport that I love the most. So I had that goal in mind. Of March or April, I wanted to be back out on the courts again playing tennis. Now that the surgery was complete, let's jump into my recovery. Now here's the real meat and potatoes of the whole journey. My recovery was not straightforward. It was hard. So first I started out by doing baby things like just moving my arm again, making sure it is loose after the surgery. And then about 2 to 3 weeks later, I went to physical therapy, and that's where the stretching really began. So the main goal of the recovery was to get back all of my mobility, get the same range of motion that I had, and get back to where I was. So now my journey had officially begun. I was stretching about 2 to 3 times a day, and I feel like I was making pretty good progress. I could start to see my arms slowly get further and further back as I'm stretching over my head, in different angles, stretching out to the side, different things like that. So I feel like it was going well. But eventually I had a follow-up with my surgeon where he looked at things, and he basically said that I was behind schedule and that if I didn't really turn up the intensity in my stretches, that they were going to have to put me under again and manually stretch my arm out because it wasn't where it was supposed to be. And if they didn't do that, then I wouldn't be able to get my mobility back. So that definitely scared me a bit. My surgeon also told me that he wanted me to push myself so hard in my stretches that I would cry, that it was so painful that that's how I could know that I was making progress, basically. So I took that to heart. I'm like, okay, if that's what I got to do, I'm going to do it. So from then on, I started stretching with a new intensity. I pushed myself harder than I had ever before. And I remember thinking, this is the hardest physical thing that I have ever done. And yes, I did get some tears. It was hard. So from that point on, things finally started to look a bit better. My mobility was coming back at a much quicker pace, and I feel like I was a lot more on track to getting back out on the courts again. So I felt like I was making good progress, but by the time March rolls around, which was kind of that first window when the surgeon told me I should be able to start playing again, I felt like I was nowhere close to being ready. And I kept thinking, like, I don't feel like I'll be ready for another 3 or 4 months from March. So that's when I kind of started to stress out and panic a little bit inside. Am I even going to be able to play tennis again? And what is that going to be like? Am I ever going to feel confident in using my arm again? So with those feelings in mind, I just kept pushing myself. I kept stretching multiple times every single day. I started incorporating some strengthening exercises as well to help bring back my strength in my arm. But again, it just felt like it wasn't enough. Even when I was pushing myself so hard, I felt like I was still a ways off. So along came April, when this was, the end of that window, that 3 to 4 month window when I should be back on the courts again. But no, I still wasn't really ready. So I was feeling a bit frustrated. I thought that I'd be ready at this point, but I wasn't, and I didn't let that get me down. Even if I'm not where I wanted to be, that's okay. I realized that I'll get there eventually. I just have to keep pushing myself further and further, and I'll get there. And after 6 months, I was finally able to step out on the courts again. On June 12th of 2024, I played tennis for the first time since my shoulder surgery. I remember thinking this was awesome. Like, I felt good, and I was still a little scared to not push myself too hard, but it felt natural, and it felt like I still had all my muscle memory and everything. It didn't feel like I was super weak either, which was cool. I did feel like my forehand had lost a lot of its power, which is to be expected, but the fact that I was back out there playing again, it was awesome.
How are you feeling?
Okay.
How's your shoulder?
Feels a little weird. Forehands are hard.
Your backhands be looking beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
How do you like the ball machine?
It's very nice.
What's a message to our future children?
Play tennis.
Oh, there. Who would have thought?
And now that I had played tennis again, I just couldn't get enough. So I had to keep getting back out there, playing over and over again to try to get back to where I was before. As I continued to get out there and play and practice and continue my stretches still, my confidence kept growing. And I realized, hey, I want to play again. I want to play in a tournament again. So that was my new goal. There was only one thing that was stopping me from signing up right then, is that my serve scared me. By this point, it's probably around August or September of 2024, and I'm feeling pretty good with my forehand and backhand, my ground strokes, but I was still pretty terrified to start serving and putting in full effort there. Because that's what caused me the most pain before I had my surgery, I definitely didn't want to mess anything up and go through this whole thing again. So I basically didn't really have much of a serve, but at least at this point, I knew what I needed the most practice in. Little by little, I started trying out my serve again. I started getting more comfortable with overhead motion again, and I was seeing progress. In the beginning, it was not pretty. My form was not the best, and I just felt awkward. It just felt weird to be doing that motion again. I wasn't comfortable doing it. So it took me a while, to start to feel comfortable. And while I was starting to serve for the first time again, I felt a bit of soreness. So that kind of scared me a little bit. I'm like, am I pushing myself too hard? Do I need to slow it down a little bit? But I just kept going. I did little by little. I didn't push myself too hard. And eventually my serve was coming back. So as I continued to play and practice all my shots, my serves, we are now approaching September of 2025 when my tournament was scheduled. At this point, I still didn't feel like I was 100% ready, but I'm like, hey, I just gotta get back out there and just test myself out. I just wanna see where I'm at. So now we've reached the main event, my first match in over 2 years. It felt great to step out on the court again in an official setting. I met my opponent for the first time, we shook hands, talked a little bit, and then we started warming up. My first impressions of my opponent were that he was good, So I knew I was in for a good match. So I don't really have too much footage of the match because I didn't really have much to record with. So I'll just talk about my overall thoughts of the match, what I felt like I did well, what I didn't do well, and what things I'm going to improve on in the future. The first set comes and goes, and I lose 6-1. Kind of a beatdown in that first set. I remember telling myself that I needed to stop trying to kill every single ball that came my way. I don't know what got into me, but that's basically what I was doing. Every time a ball was a little bit slow on my forehand, I would just try to crush it so hard, like I was Alcaraz or something. I don't know what I was doing, but that's what happened. I kept telling myself, like, hey, stop trying to crush every single ball, because it was going way out every single time. So that's what happened the first set. I was just out of control. I think I might have had a little bit of nerves, and yeah, I didn't really know what to do. So on we go to the second set. This is where things started to turn around a little bit. I ended up winning the first 2 games, so I was up 2-0, and that was awesome. I'm like, I already doubled my game total from the first set, so we're in a good spot. The things that started clicking for me the most in the second set is that my serves really started applying more power, and I was feeling so much more confident and comfortable in them, which was awesome. Because that's kind of the thing that I was most worried about, but the fact that I could rely on my serve to get good power, get good placement, and not have to worry so much about double faults on my kick serve. So I was feeling good. The problem that I ran into in the first set was, I was just hitting everything out. That kind of continued on in the second set as well, although I tried to kind of reel it back in and hit with a little bit less power and just more control. That didn't always go well because then I started to hit it into the net some more. So I don't know, I kind of needed a reset. But along with that, the other thing that I definitely need more work on is serve returns. Up to this point, I'd basically done all my practice with a ball machine, just hitting ground strokes and hitting serves. I didn't really get any experience with returning serves. So yeah, that was definitely the weakest part of my game. I wasn't returning basically anything. Even second serves, I couldn't really get those in either, so it was a little rough. I eventually got a bit better at the end, but I think that's what was making it so hard for me to try to stay in the match, because if I ever got broken, I basically would have a very hard time trying to break back. So in the end, I ended up losing that second set as well, but I stuck in there for a bit longer this time. I lost 6-4. So there it is. I lost my first competitive tennis match after not playing in over 2 years. Even though I lost, like I said, just getting to this point again was huge. There were times during my recovery that I didn't know how well I'd be able to ever play again. So yeah, the fact that I could stick in there, that my serve was doing awesome, and that the only major problems that I had was hitting the ball a bit too long and my serve returns, I can work on those. And overall, I'm just optimistic. Like, I just want to get back out there and practice and get better and continue to play in matches. So to tie everything together, if you're going through a similar situation of an injury that you've had and that you're working to get back to a sport, whether it is tennis or if it's anything else, it's really hard. Speaking from my own experience, I had to push myself harder than I ever thought I would have to. And I didn't ever give up. So that's the one thing. Don't ever give up. Believe in yourself, and you can accomplish amazing things. There you go, boys. That's it. I hope you liked this video. I want to continue to make content like this. I love tennis. So yeah, next time I play a tournament, I'll film it. I'll make sure I have good footage, and I'll talk about it. I also have another video coming soon to try to fix my forehand, because there was a comment on one of my past videos where someone said my forehand was wrong, and it kind of sent me into an existential crisis. So I'm going to try to fix it. Anyway, I was freaking out about it, but stay tuned for that. And that's it. Hope you liked it. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video if you liked it. And I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.